Hello, this is Professor Jack, and wow, it was a pleasure. We just finished the first chat, and I had a fantastic time. Welcome one more time. This is chapter 4, and this is on social structure. We'll be discussing social interaction, which is, remember we talk about the socialization chapter and how we define it as the lifelong process of social interaction. So we'll go ahead and talk more, about the interaction that exists. We'll talk about the context. We'll go ahead and talk about what dramaturgy is, norms, the methodology, the settings, the types of interaction, all that. We'll go ahead and just kind of briefly cover that. You guys have the slides, so you guys could go ahead and open the slides, download them, but first save them and then open them, and go ahead and do your own study. Don't just rely on my notes. So again, the socialization is the lifelong process of social interaction, right? And so we're studying now social interaction. We're going more into to the micro aspects of communication. So we have two case studies, and the first one is on Anna, the other one is on Jeannie, and these case studies are extreme, and they're extreme, but let me tell you something not very unpopular. Where people go to the extreme and they lock or they put their children in dungeons, never letting them go out, never experience the socialization or the everyday social interaction that children should have with children their age, peers, and so on. Those are extreme cases. With that, I'm not saying that as parents we don't have the right to actually minimize certain, or actually take away certain negative influences, like watching television, for example, or like watching playing violent video games, or even using profane language with their peers, etc. Right? I think as parents we have definitely a responsibility. Let me go ahead and empower you parents to go ahead and do your job, okay? But at the same time, there are extreme cases where it has been recorded in the news. If you go to the internet and do your research, and you'll find cases where recent cases where parents actually lock their children so that they don't go out, so that and just feed them like potatoes and water and a piece of bread every day, and they do not develop the characteristics that we think as human. And those are my case reflections of the case of Anna and the case of Jeannie. But furthermore, let's go ahead and talk more about, I don't want to go ahead and scare you with tough cases. Social the socialization / social interaction of people many times is not the best, right? Because of cases, for example, foster care. We've had cases of children who they have everyday social interaction with deviants at school, sexual predators that actually do seduce our children to prostitute themselves in the street. I mean, we have cases like this in foster care. So we talk about social interaction and the extremes, but also the limits, right? So anyways, as parents, we are more definitely more prudent in knowing the boundaries and the limitations, of course, right? So anyways, okay, so I gave you the definition of socialization in the previous lecture, and now more directly into the into discussing the types and or the forms of social interaction. So I mean, first of all, social interaction should have a context. It should have a place, a setting where it occurs, right? 2-3 people having a discussion, or larger groups having a discussion, right? We should also have norms, certain expectations that should be in place, right? Yeah, I mean, like, what are the rules? You're inside the classroom, there are rules for such interaction to take place. You're casually on the street, and you're having a discussion with 1 or 2 people, 5 people maybe, and there are certain limits. For example, no profanity, right? I mean, you get to choose your friends or the people you're having this conversation with, right? And you many times also set the limits, and if not, then you don't participate if other people don't listen, right? Ethnomethodology referring to the meaning. Yeah, but I mean, all social interactions should have meaning. What is the meaning of our discussion? What are we talking about, in other words, right? You have 2-3, for example, you have 2 social workers talking about attachment and foster care and so on. You probably don't know what they're talking about if you're not so into that, right? You then have two or three other people talking about gastronomy, American gastronomy, or Mexican folklore, and you're if you don't share the same, let's say, the culture, you then won't know exactly the meaning of the interaction taking place. So interaction should then have a meaning, which in this case we call it ethnomethodology, and dramaturgy referring more to like a we're social actors. We play act, right? We play act. We use gestures. We use expressions. We actually do want to sort of like accommodate or adjust to the given environment, right? So we play act. We use a lot of gestures. We use a lot of body language, and we definitely say words which have meaning, like I said in the previous. Okay, so these are the four like conditions or elements, you could call them. Well, we have also types of social interaction. We have nonverbal social interaction. How can I give an example? Like facial gestures, body language, right? Body language, hand signals. Then we also have the other type is known as exchange interaction, which is verbal interaction between two people, like dialogue, right? Then we also have a the competition. Competitive social interaction is more like a team, a group of people actually working together to turn off a fire, or I don't know. I mean, firemen, okay, working together competitively in cooperation. Sorry, not competitive, but cooperative. And then we have conflicting interaction. Groups of people engage in, say, riots, or they're not actually. It's conflicting. There's violence, but nevertheless they're interacting, right? I mean, imagine two people violently. They're engaging in violent behavior, but guess what? They're interacting. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense because the point is that they're interacting, even though it's not a very positive interaction. This is why I was telling you about television. It's a form and influence, definitely, or with your friends, your kids' peers, or even your own peers. A lot of interaction may actually engage into violent behavior and destructive behavior. Look at the riots. I mean, it was there was interaction right there, but not very positive interaction. Interaction that actually broke the broke bureaucratic law, right? The law. Then we have competitive interaction. We're going to now talk about competitive interaction. And competitive interaction is like two teams playing against each other with a set of rules and norms, right? And competing for to win. And we have it brings the elements of other types of interactions that we discussed, right? But with a set of rules and norms, right? Okay, so those are the types of interaction. I advise you guys to go ahead and read each slide more carefully. Here I'm just kind of brushing through these. I wrote these, so I know them very well. I gave you pictures. I developed them from scratch. But it is time for you to go ahead and read every slide more carefully, and so on. Okay. Now later we'll talk about in the later chapter we'll talk about groups. But for now, it's necessary to talk about status and norms. In every group formation, say family, for example, etc. Any group, you have certain elements. For example, you have status. Every group should have a status, right? And for every status, there are norms that apply to the status, right? Expectations to the status. The status would be like the title. What title do you play in your family? For example, well, in this group called family, my status is that of father, or my status is that of child, son, daughter, and so on. So you have norms that apply to that, right? And so with every group, you have this particular structure. As the group gets larger, so does the need, right? The need of more structure, and then the need of a leader. Certain other statuses and roles that have to be applicable. Otherwise, the group. Then, of course, I'm actually jumping into groups, into discussing groups, and we're not there yet. Until we'll do it next chapter. Okay. So yeah, okay, status norms, and many times there are role strains, and you also have another thing known as role conflict. So these are characteristics that occur in the group. Many times the person actually does lives with two statuses, and one may actually conflict the other, or roles. One may actually conflict the other. So you have a role string, you have a role conflict. Again, I advise you to go ahead and read these more carefully. I'm just brushing through them, and this is the second part. The third part would be on groups, because ultimately, in discussing social interaction, social structure, socialization, we're actually talking about a major theme. right? Which is society. You add those two or three different chapters or themes, and you get one major title behind this. And the title to it is that sociology, I mean, that society is based on social interaction from this perspective. So, you close your eyes and you ask yourself, what is society? You close your eyes. Go ahead and do that. Close your eyes and think to yourself, what is society? Well, I see, when I close my eyes, I actually see buildings, I see cars, I actually see people crossing the street, and then I see airplanes, and I see cars, like I see I'm almost imagining I'm on top of the clouds, and I'm actually watching the freeways and people going back and forth, and people engaged in the street having this conversation. So that's kind of what I think when if someone were to ask me what society is, right? Just generally. Well, society is more, how do you say, more detailed than that, right? Society, it's social interaction, really. Society is based on groups. That's what society is, right? So, many people say, well, to me, what I thought, when we talk about sociology, I thought we were going to study more like culture, and whenever we talk about society, I would think that we're, first thing that comes to my mind is the White House, or buildings, downtown. Yeah, but, way more than that. Society is really social interaction. And society, my friends, is groups. And the most important group of all is family, like I said already in the previous couple of chapters, right? So we'll discuss more in depth what I'm trying to say, because I'm a very clear kind of a fellow when it comes to these lectures. I'm open-minded, down to earth, straight out, and this is my style of teaching. I know that many people actually like they enroll in my class. They like the way I actually conduce the lecture and the classes. I give a lot of notes, definitely, as you can probably see, imagine. And in this class, we're definitely not socially interacting, you and I, right? Because it's an online course. You get to see me at least. It's one-way channel, but it's okay. There will come a day where you and I will get to maybe shake hands in the future. But for now, we'll have to go ahead and limit it this way. But I hope you got the best out of this lecture. It's not really a large lecture. Please read it. Post, give me your questions on the post-week thought forum. Again, I just want to go ahead and repeat that I just finished a couple of minutes ago, or hours actually, about an hour ago. I did finish the first chat, and it was amazing. The people that I met, I shouldn't say names, but they're wonderful people. A lot of people had great ideas, and if you missed this first chat, you guys have chance for future chats. Now, here's one more other thing, as you know already. You could do as many chats as you want, not more than 4 though, and you get additional points. And these will be handy in the future. So anyways, I hope you have a good time. Take care. Wait for my next video. This is Jack, the professor. Thank you. Bye-bye.